All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to build industry leading brands. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and of course, we have the amazing Mr. Bobby Stealth, and we have a phenomenal show for you today. Before we get into it, let us know where you're listening in from. Go ahead and put those locations in the chat, and of course, put your flames as well. Bobby, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. This morning I asked myself an interesting question. It
Okay.
was, why aren't more people where they want to be? And I put myself in that, category as well. Everybody wants to be further than we actually are. And I think part of that is human nature. The other part of that is some people just don't do what needs to be done. So I ended up saying to myself, we know what to do. Many of us can do what needs to be done. Like, let's say we need to write a book. Like, we know we need to write a book, and we very well could write a book. Let's say that that's a simple task. But the thing is, we lack the will to do it. And I just thought about that. I'm like, we know what to do. We can do what needs to be done, but we lack the will to get it done. And I just pondered that this morning. So I'm feeling very reflective, very excited. I'm going to be looking at my own desires and the things that I want for myself and what things that I have lacked the will to see through and how I can change that. So I'm excited to see where this energy takes us. How about yourself? How you doing this morning?
Man, I am feeling amazing as usual. I'm feeling good. I feel like I've arrived at a new point in my journey.
Mm,
I have a lot more clarity on a lot of things. Like guys, number one, you could never have enough clarity. Like there's always more clarity to be found. So that's number one. But Bobby, I feel absolutely amazing. I feel a little bit more mature with regards to this space, if that makes sense. Like when you become more mature, it's like things that you may not have been able to see, you just start to see them. You see more clearly, and maybe things that were a big deal before, they're not so much of a big deal. It's like, okay,
yeah.
I've seen that before. So that's sort of the way I feel at the moment. Now, when you said that, man, you've opened up a very interesting kind of worms there. I don't know how deep you want to go down that rabbit hole, but one thing I'll say is people often know what to do, but people don't do what they know. So we know what to do, but we don't do what we know. We know what to do, but we don't do what we know. And when you talk about will, like if you have to define that and really get into like what that actually means, then this conversation could take a very, very interesting turn.
Yeah.
But answer your question, I feel absolutely amazing. I want to send a quick shout out to everybody viewing. So I see Bradley, Mr. Joel Smith, the man himself, Tia Rogers, Dr. Michelle D. Clark. She says, let me put this up. She says, there we go again. Superbly sensational Saturday.
Mm,
Dr. Michelle again. Dr. Michelle, I used to have a little book, a very small book, and it used to have like every page had different lines, like little quotes of wisdom. You should make a little book with just phrases like that.
yeah.
Like literally, you should make a little book with phrases like that because you always have something new. Just a little word of advice. And by the way, guys, I do want to plug this in because the brand challenge is going live. So I noticed a lot of people have been registering. In fact, we got a few more registrants just this morning. I just woke up and I saw a bunch of people are just registered. So let's keep registering. We're going live this month. In fact, next Monday, Monday the 8th of April, we'll be live at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have not registered as yet, please go ahead and register so you could receive like the Zoom links and the announcements, etc., etc. So you could be up to date with what's going on. Make sure you register. And of course, if you have anybody in mind that may benefit, have them go ahead and register as well. www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. That's www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. So, Bobby, before we go to the break, man, is there anything you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say before the break is whatever you're holding on to that good and well, it could be a habit, it could be a person, it could be a old identity. Like anything you're holding on to, let it go. If you're trying to grow, you're going to have to let that thing that's not congruent with your next level and your future self, you got to let it go. So that's what I'd say to the people.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, guys, so we are back. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brand. And today, I believe Bobby has a very interesting topic. So I'm going to pass over the mic and allow him to introduce it. So what's up, Bobby?
Man, I'm thinking again, we should talk about growth. To have a good conversation about what it really means to grow, because every entrepreneur is trying to do that. Like, they're trying to scale their business, they're trying to scale themselves, they're trying to grow their income, impact independence. Like, they're trying to do all these things. And sometimes the process of growth can be an illusion and it can be elusive. So what I mean by an illusion, we can think that growth is going to look one way. We think it's going to be like, oh man, I blew up, and I'm here now. But in reality, it's actually an elusive process of constantly figuring out what it's going to take to get to where you are right now, Junior, which is in that state of clarity and reflectiveness. But when you get ready to grow again, because you're always growing, and I know that about you personally, when you're ready to cut the gas up, you're going to be lost again to some degree, but at a much higher level. And then it's going through the process all over again. So I'd like to first open it up by saying, I remember when 10K a month was like my ultimate goal. Like, I was like, yo, once I get to 10K a month, I'm there. I made it, 6-figure earner. Life will be good. And as I was approaching my goal, I'm getting excited. Wife and everybody's like, you're almost there. This is what we've been waiting for, and I get there, and then I had to start paying 10K a month to stay there. Very interesting. I was working so hard to get there, and then when I got there, just to stay there cost me everything it took to get there. And I think some people are growing right now and might be a little confused. So, Junior, if you don't mind talking a little bit to what the process of growth has looked like for you, as you have personally seen so many people come through, branded like a leader, coaching like a leader, closing like a leader, and you've seen them grow. You saw me day one to today. You saw Michelle day one to today. You saw people like Travis day one to today. So being so close to people's growth process, what do you know about the growth process and what it really looks like?
That's excellent, Bobby. And let me just clarify something. There's always more levels of clarity. There's always higher and higher and higher levels. So the way I look at it, it's like a staircase. So in every single room, there's an 80% and then there's a 20%. You might be in the 20% of the current room where you are right now. But for you to go to a higher level, when you transition, you end up becoming the 80% at a higher level. So for example, you might go into a room. So let's say you're a speaker. You might go into a room where the people are not speakers. They're not professional speakers. And then you're like the 20%, or sometimes the 1%. But then you take a leap up, and then you end up in a room with people that have been speaking for like 10 years. Then you become the 80%. You network with those people, you learn what they know, and then you transition to another room where you have like legendary speakers, people that are world renowned, and then you become the 80% in that new room. So you're always moving, up to different levels. And you know and I think Joel mentioned this uh when he spoke about leadership being, or leaders have to be willing to continually grow and continually be humble and continually be, just want to serve and be a follower, be a willing follower of people that are ahead of you. So that's what the process of growth looks like. But Bobby, the question you asked me, to sort of answer that from a sort of high level, and I say high level meaning that looking outside of the box. So the people that are growing, the people that we grow, that we help to grow inside the leverage, they're sort of in their own box. All right. So everybody has their own box. Okay. So I tell people, I don't try to think in the box. I don't think out of the box. I'm trying to be my own box. Everybody is their own box. Now, as a coach, you're in a very unique position where you could see the outside of the box. And what I could tell you is that what I've noticed, like, to the person in the box, so to the student, they're going through their own internal sort of journey, like their own sort of mini hero's journey, where they're going through a series of challenges, overcoming those challenges, overcoming mental hurdles, learning new things, going through different growth curves, climbing up different mountains, descending. Sometimes they feel like this doesn't work. And, people going through their own roller coaster of mental thoughts. But realistically, me on the outside looking in, the number one thing I notice about growth is really and truly a change in perspective. So it's a change in perception. So did the student change? No. Did they physically change? No. Their perception changed. Their perception of the problem, or their perception or their perspective of, let's say, branding, or their perspective on closing, or their perspective on coaching, or their perspective on speaking. There was some sort of perspective shift, right? That happened. People saw things in a different way. And as I've said before, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
Bobby,
go ahead.
just to wrap up, to look at it at a high level, if you're looking to grow, the question I would ask myself is, what is the perspective that I don't have, that I need to have to become the person that I need to become? Because if you could get somebody's perspective, you could understand their reasoning, and then you could match their actions.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want everybody to understand that you can do this, right? You can 100% do this, because I know there's someone watching this right now that's probably feeling like they're ready to tap out. Like, everybody that's really growing is getting close, like, to tapping out. They're like, oh my gosh, if one more thing goes wrong, if this paycheck doesn't come through, if this thing doesn't work out, like, everybody's close if they're really growing. Like, you're close to a breaking point. And the reason I believe this is because, in my personal experience, I've realized you've got to break your world in order to build your future. Like, you've got to break your world. And what I mean by that is, in our worlds, we have like gravity, and gravity attracts things to you. It causes things to circle around you. Very simple concept. We all know it, right? So when you create a world and you live in a world, you've got all of these things circling around you, say people, old emotional states. It could be old ideas and perspectives of yourself. And now you've got somewhat of a solar system, like, and that's your world. And in order to break out of that entire construct sometimes and rebuild in a new ecosystem, you really have to break what it is that you have held dear for so long. So one of the things that I think is super exciting about growth and also very painful about it. But it's like, it's not a bad pain. It's just that it's uncomfortable. You know, growth is never comfortable. People do not grow in their comfort zone. But one thing that I've noticed about growth is that when you are growing, you never feel like you're doing enough. Like when you are in the process, like I would venture to say Junior may have one point in time never felt like he was making enough calls. He might have hit 200 calls, and like at one point in his life, he was like, maybe I should do three. Maybe I should do 300 calls in a day. And I think everybody feels that way. Like for me right now, I literally went from the 20% to the 80%. So there was a place in my business where I was closing all the deals and the higher ticket deals, and the biggest deals were being closed by me. And then I got in a new situation where I'm kind of at the bottom of the barrel, and I'm like trying to figure out how I'm going to close a deal that's big, like maybe a bigger deal than I've ever closed. And it's a very interesting situation because it's like everybody around me seems to be bouncing around. They're happy, they're smiling, and I need another list of numbers. Hit me, hit me. I'm at the blackjack table, like hit me, you know? So I think that getting comfortable being uncomfortable is very important. So my next question for you, Junior, is during your growth process, because you shared a story with us where you said you had your head on the steering wheel, you could see the street, there was a hole in the floor of the car. And
Yeah.
during that stage, you said you began a journey. Now, as you began this journey, you also talked about a time where you were on a scaffold closing a deal, right? So I would like you to talk to us a little bit about what that experience was like. How did that grow you? Because it couldn't have been comfortable. You had to somewhat be a little nervous, like you're hanging from a building trying to close a deal, and you could potentially drop the phone or let go of something that's very important to hold on to. So what was that experience like for you?
Man, I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't. It's almost like like when like NASCAR when they race around the track. If you're teaching somebody to let's say drive or to do like race car, or even like what Joel does with the flying. And I think Tony Robbins says it best. He says, where focus goes, energy flows. So where focus goes, energy flows. If you're in a race car and you're looking at the curb, you you're going towards the curb. I guarantee you. If you're flying and then you're looking towards some kind of obstacle or something, you're going towards the obstacle. So I think it's better to just focus on where you want to get to. Of course, don't be unconscious of what's around you, but the focus should be on where you want to get to. So to answer that question, the experience for me, now if I had to break it down, I've never consciously thought about it. So I wasn't thinking about it. But now that you've asked me the question, if I had to sort of recall what it was like and talking about what we're, discussing right here, I would say that if I had to sum it up into words, the biggest lesson here, I would say it is mental alchemy. That's the term I would use. And what does that mean? Alchemy, if you know what alchemy means, alchemy used to mean turning lead into gold back in the day. So basically, just transforming one thing to another thing. So what I mean when I say mental alchemy is taking a bad perspective and transforming it into a good perspective or a useful perspective. So people tell me all the time, I have to go to work. I have to go to work. So if you work a 9 to 5 that you don't like, you might say, well, man, today's Monday. I have to go to work today. Mental alchemy says, I get to go to work today. Look at that. Small change, one word. I have to go to work. I get to go to work. I have to make 100 calls. No, I get to make 100 calls. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do so much work. No, I get to do so much work. I have to speak to so many clients. No, I get to speak to so many clients.
Yeah.
That one change in one word gives you a different perspective and puts you on a different trajectory into something that is negative to something that is positive. So for me, in those moments, and this is the same moment, like, talking about when I was, looking down at the street and all that, like in those moments, it really required that mental alchemy to take that seemingly negative situation and transform it into something positively. And that requires a lot of conscious thought to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're going through something, you still have to have the will. So Bobby spoke about will. Will is a tool that we have to deploy to change our mental perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. Will is a tool that we have to deploy. Now, I'm using my words very specifically for a reason. So when you deploy something, it means that you use it, you let it go. So you deploy, you know, different things. You send something out. So you send out your will to be able to transform your mental situation. So if you're in a state, right, Bobby, where you now become the 80%, you can use your will to transform your perspective and then be re-become the 20%. Now, it's so interesting what you said about that, because I've been in many situations like that. And that's where we get into, I believe, what Joel spoke about when he said transferable skills. Transferable skills. So I've entered different industries that I've never worked in before, okay? Where I was brand new. I didn't know anything about the product. I didn't know anything about the process. I didn't know anything, but I knew how to sell. And then if you have that ability to use your will and to be conscious in your process, then you can quickly regain your position as the 20%, even if you're coming in as the 80%. So it means that you could, like Bobby, literally, you can transfer the skills that took you or that made you the 20% into that new industry or that new space to become the 20% again. You just have to shift your perspective and find the perspective that you need. So I hope that answered your question. But what people are looking for, man, I don't know what it's called, but I would call it mental alchemy. That's the way I think about it. So how do you transform your mental state? By shifting your perspective. But the way that you do that is by using your will. You have to use your willpower, because it's very, like, people might say, Junior, it's easy to say. You're right, it is easy to say. So what I'm saying is by no feat like an easy thing to do. When you're going through a tough time and you're really going through it, it's very difficult to change your perspective. But you have to have the willpower, the mental fortitude to be able to successfully do that. And that, to me, is a skill.
Yeah, I know we're getting ready to go to the break, but there's one thing that I want to just throw out there, because it's a common pitfall, and I think it's one that hits everyone. And if you can start strategizing against this, it transforms your life. At least it did for me. So I want to give it to you guys this way. Most times when we're going through something extremely painful, we look for a way to stop the pain or to at least alleviate the pain. And what we tend to do is find something comforting. And that comforting thing is oftentimes, always, a vice. A vice. And that vice doesn't have to be anything, illegal or crazily bad, but it could be a vice for you. Let's say going to sleep with the TV on is a vice for you. Like, you don't get the best rest when you go to sleep with the TV on, but you're stressed out. You got all these things going on. You just want to watch something funny and fall asleep. And those little things, those little comforts are the things that prolong the suffering, in my experience. So it's like, not only is it challenging to will yourself to do what you know you need to do, I've also found that it's the distractions that devour our dreams. It's like you're so close, you're doing all the things right, but you have this one distraction that's like taking your mind off of what it needs to be focused on. And it's often in the form of a vice. So if you can find a way to attack those vices, or take your TV off the wall, or put the Debbie cakes in a safe and throw away the key, find a way to protect your focus and attention. And I found that that's very, very helpful when the going gets tough.
100%. Guys, so let's just check in with the audience. Guys, if you're learning something this morning, just put a number 1 or put some flames in the chat. Just let me know that you're following along. Let us know that you're learning something. Go ahead, put some flames in the chat. We'll be right back after this very short break, and then we'll be getting more into the growth process and sort of the mental abilities that you need to be able to grow. Stay tuned.
The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right, the sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you, and they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace, and be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them. In brand clarity, exactly what you're going to get is what it sounds like. Clarity for your brand. What is your color? What is your logo? What is your unique value proposition? Who are you speaking to? Why? How should you speak to them? How should I position myself? That's what you're going to learn in brand clarity. You need other people to have the same clarity on your brand that you do. But this is the gap. If you don't have clarity on your brand, then no one else is going to have clarity on your brand either. It's like messaging. Your message sounds clear to you, but is your end user receiving the value that you're trying to provide? I guarantee you that after you go through brand clarity, they will, and so will you. And that's how you'll scale your brand.
All right, guys, so we are back, and I do see the flames in the chat. Listen, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your feedback. We take it very seriously, so you guys are learning. All right, so Bobby, let's keep going, man. And by the way, if you're now tuning in, go ahead to the chat, the link right there, www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. It's 100% free of charge, and if you're looking to learn the secrets to building your brand, this is where you want to be. Starting next Monday. In fact, 2 days from now, April 8th, we're going live at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to have you with us. Bobby, let's go.
Yeah, during the break, I wrote something down that says integrity is the beginning of power. And I think that's what's so powerful about what we do here with the brand you, not what you do. Because when you brand you, let's say that's authentically who you are. And let's say you obey your own convictions, like you have these convictions of what you think is right, and you follow those convictions. It's like that's the beginning of power. And I think everything else outside of authenticity and integrity is force, and most people that do business know, like, when you try to force something, it rarely works well. Like, anytime you try to force something, it rarely works well. But when you have a reservoir of power that's constantly flowing, whenever the right thing is connected, boom, it happens. So it's like in business, it's not really about trying to force the right thing to happen at the wrong time, but it's rather about being connected to your authentic power source. And when the right connection arises, you're ready to light something up. So as we talk about the branding piece a little bit more, and we talk about leadership a little bit more, as we really integrate all of this into the growth process, my question for you, Junior, is how has your leadership development been a source of power for the people that you lead? Because I know that you have different VAs, you've got different assistants, and all of these individuals work for you. And as you grow, I would assume that they get more from you. You're more of a power source to them. So as you've grown as a leader, how have you seen your subordinates, in this case, but they're not necessarily under Junior, but the people that work with you, that you're responsible for, how have you seen them grow?
That's a very interesting question. So I think, in fact, I know you can only grow. Like if you're following someone, if you're a follower, and follower means somebody who's willingly following somebody. Okay, if you're willingly following somebody who's a mentor, you can only grow as far as they grow. And to me, the fastest way to lose a mentee or follower is to have them outgrow you. So if somebody outgrows you, there's no reason for them to follow you. There's no reason for them to take your guidance, so to speak. So as I've grown, I'm always looking for ways to grow my people. So as I come across new information, I'm sending new information. I'm giving them new perspective. I'm keeping them up to date with what I'm doing. And I mean, not just business, I mean, all parts of life. So I tell them, guys, this is when I eat. This is how I work out. This is what I listen to. This is what I read. So as I do that, I mean, they're getting the same perspectives. They're also growing. And the answer to the question, Bobby, is as you grow as a leader, if you're doing it right, then your people are also growing in proportion to the way that you grow. So it's proportionate. So if you grow 10%, they're growing 10%. If you grow 50%, they're growing 50%. Right?
Yeah.
If they're doing what they're supposed to do, and if they're following you, and if your leadership is good, then they will grow in proportion to your growth.
Junior, I love what you said about if you are a follower, you're willingly following someone so that you can grow yourself, and I think that's something that's underrated these days. It's like nobody wants to follow anybody. Everybody wants to come out on top, big dog on campus. It's like, yo, I don't need no help. You know who I am? You know who I am? Like that's the energy that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, especially getting started, and I think it's partly because we come from the 20% in the workforce, right? Like when we're in our job and we've been there for say 15 years and we've got all this education and we've been doing this one thing for all these years, it's like you have a reason to be a little cocky, but tastefully cocky, but confidence really. But it's like when done properly, it can come off well. But when you bring that energy into the marketplace and you don't find someone to follow and you don't submit yourself to a growth process, I think that's one of the most damaging things we can do to ourselves, because now we're not growing and we're not in a position where we are humble enough to exchange ideas. And when I say exchange ideas, I don't mean just exchange ideas with other people, but I mean take one idea out and replace it with another idea. And that, I believe, requires humility. And humility, I have found in personal development, is best found when you have a reason to be humble. And I think that comes from community, being around people doing better than you, being around people making more money than you, closing bigger deals than you. And when you have that reality, it's like, I got a reason to be humble. Like I'm not, doing what they're doing. Not that you should compare yourself in that way, but it's like, if they can do it, I can do it. And if I'm not doing it now, but I believe I'm capable of it, what's the gap? And when you start identifying the gap, you can close it. So as we move through this conversation, how would you recommend someone begin growing if they feel like they've stagnated? Because a lot of times we feel like we were going, we hit our stride, we got some traction, and then we stagnate. So have you ever once been stagnant? I'm sure you maybe have. And if you have, how'd you get unstuck? How'd you work your way out?
Yeah. So number one, yes, I definitely have been stagnant before. To sort of go back to your point before I answer your question, that term is called coachability. So you have to be coachable. So coachable means when you're talking to somebody that you are seeking assistance from, you have to empty your cup. It doesn't matter what you know. Like you can know whatever, right? You have to empty your cup. And that's my attitude. Like if I'm talking to somebody that knows more than I do, I don't care what I read on the internet. I don't care what I heard on YouTube. I don't care what I went to school for. I'm emptying my cup and then I'm listening to what they have to say, and I'm going to do what they say exactly as they say it and with no questions whatsoever. That's it. That's my attitude. And I remember one of my mentors, once I said to him, I shared like an idea. I said, I think that such and such and such. He said, you what? You think? He said, you think? he basically told me you didn't earn the right to have a thought on this subject as yet because you hadn't done anything. So what is your thinking gonna what all right, your thoughts versus my thoughts. Which one wins? Where are your results? You don't have the authority to give me an opinion. And he was right. You haven't earned the right to give an opinion if you've not done anything. So what are you giving the opinion on? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. You have to just be coachable and just do what your mentor says. That's it. And then that's how you learn. Okay. But going back to your question, Bobby, have I ever been in a stagnant place? Absolutely. And I know we talk about sales a lot. I've definitely hit what you call, it's sort of like a stagnant period in sales where you feel like you're not making any sales at all. So you go from in the beginning not making any sales, then you're climbing, you're gaining the confidence. You're like, yeah, boy, I'm closing deals, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You make more sales and more sales and more. Then you end up closing a huge sale, okay? And then you're sitting on top of the mountain and you're, sipping your drink and you're like, okay, who's next? Where's my next deal? Why are there nobody? Why are no people on my calendar? Where's my next deal? And you feel almost like you got it, like you're a master now. And then life, as it so often does, right? God in his or her infinite wisdom often humbles us, right? And then you start getting no sales, and then you start getting one sale here, one sale there, another one there, another one in 2 weeks. Pretty soon you have no sales, and you're like, "What's going on? Is this the same person that was on top of the mountain?" So there's something called Chinese handcuffs. Okay, so basically, in a Chinese handcuff, the more you pull, the tighter it gets. Now, we as human beings, we have sort of the tendency to move forward in the future based on the successful actions that we took in the past. In other words, if you close the deal in one way and it worked for you last month, you're trying to close the deal in the same way this month. We don't often see when things no longer work. And we go based on analogy from the past instead of asking ourselves, how can we do what's best for the future? And the easiest visual image I could give to represent what I'm talking about is, and you can put this in the chat, how many of you have ever witnessed a fly or some kind of bug trying to go outside and they're smashing their head through a glass? They're trying to go through a glass window to get outside, and they keep banging their head on the window over and over and over again. They bang their head once, they're like, hold on, something's wrong. They go around the room, boom, back into the same glass. They go around the room, boom, back into the same glass. To them, they could see outside, they could see the end result. And a lot of the times, we can see the end result. We can see the sale. We can see, okay, this is what I need to do. I can see it. I can taste it. And we keep banging our heads in the glass. But here's what you do. If you ever find yourself in a scenario where you're banging your head up against the glass, trying to get the end result, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and now you're in a stagnated place, the key is not to try harder. So here's what we do. We think we're not working hard enough. So then we work harder. We try harder. But as very, very wise people have said, you don't get results from working hard. You get results from doing the right thing. If I'm trying to bake a cake, the cake is not going to come out better based on how hard I stir the batter, or based on how hard I pour it into the oven, into the, the shape, the pan, the cake. If I pour it harder, it doesn't make a better cake. Okay? If I drive my vehicle harder, it doesn't make for a better ride. Okay? So hard work, yes, is good, but hard work is not always the answer. Okay? The answer is don't try harder, try different. And the difference is a shift in perspective. Oftentimes, the answer is right there, but because we don't have the perspective to see the answer, we often miss it. So, in my case, going back to my story, I found myself in a space where I was like 3 months no sales, and I don't know what's going on. And check this out, Bobby. What I experienced was what you call a quantum leap, because I went from 3 months no sales to closing the biggest sale that I'd ever closed. Literally, I kid you not. I sat down and in 1 hour, I sort of I sort of did like a mental check and, okay, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I shifted my perspective. I had a deal at the top of the hour. I closed the deal and it was the biggest deal that I'd ever closed. Coming from a 3 month, like no sales, 3 month slump.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. Was I any different? Was I physically different? No. Was the prospect different? No. My perspective was different. I
Yeah.
didn't try harder. I tried different. And if you're in a space where you're in a slump, chances are you don't need to try harder. You just need to try different. Stop trying to, bang your head up against the glass. And oftentimes, what's really interesting is oftentimes, if the same fly had looked to the right, he or she would have noticed an open door right there that they could use to go outside.
Man.
You'll open the door right there, and it will keep going into the glass. It will never look to the left or the right to see the open door that's right there.
Junior, I'm laughing because I'm so hard-headed. I'm the fly. Like, I am the fly. And I don't know if I'm the only one on this call right now, but I'm the type of person that says some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield. Like, I'll just be like running into this thing over and over again. And I had to learn what you just said in a very painful way. So how I learned this was, man, it's so funny. At the time, it was mildly embarrassing, but now I can share it with you guys. It was like I hit rock bottom. So I was at this point in my life where nothing was going right. Like, I was losing clients, I was losing money, I was falling behind on like bills and things of that nature. My team, I couldn't pay my staff. Like, everything was falling apart all at one time. And I was looking at my life, and then even my marriage was on the rocks. Like, everything seemed to be falling apart. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, is this it? Is it over now? Am I about to go down, baby? And then I got to a point where I ran into the window so many times, so relentlessly, that the saving grace that I had was just authenticity and integrity. So the reason I share this is because you have to be around people that think differently in order for you to get a different perspective. And because I was around the right people in the right community and I was authentic, like, they saw me running headfirst into this wall. They saw me doing it. And they said to me, it'd be good to stop. You're probably running headfirst into a wall right now. And you've probably seen someone that advised you to stop doing that. And you probably even saw someone tell you, hey, there's a door over here, and you just kept doing what you wanted to do if you're hard-headed like me. So here's how everything ended up working out. I was getting ready to fly ram smack into the wall again. And what ended up happening is another fly came, bigger fly in this scenario, and bumped me into the doorway. So why do I share that story? I share that story because who are you around that cares enough about you to bump you into the doorway? Because if you're hard-headed like me, you're not going to look. You're not going to turn your eye. You're not going to look. You're going to be too stubborn. So I think that Junior is phenomenal in his ability to be coachable. And you got to be coachable, but not everybody is as coachable. And when you're not as coachable, I think the best thing you can do, and this is just to give a different perspective to what Junior said, is like the best thing you can do is have a community or a coach that is strong enough and clear enough to bump you into the right place. So I just wanted to give that perspective before the final break, because I know we'll be able to come back and do one more thing. But like, if you're stuck and you're stubborn, good luck. Like, the best thing you can do is get around some people that are big enough and care enough to help you. Because I think many entrepreneurs have just a undying will that can sometimes, when immature, be an arrogance that needs to be put to rest. But you need someone qualified to really help you get that done.
I tell people all the time, I say coaching is a future-focused, goal and action-oriented process. Emphasis on action and emphasis on process. We're going to show you how to not just coach like a leader, but to create your organization with a coaching culture, and then create your community of high-level clients who need and respect your ability to coach them on a high level. So again, this is not consultation. Consultation is being the expert. You do not have to be the expert in a vertical to be a coach in that vertical. What you do have to do is ask open-ended questions. What you do have to do is have active listening. Listen, when you get done with this course, you're going to be a master coach, a master executive coach. You can use this in whatever vertical you want to. If you want to do life coaching, this will help you. If you want to coach clients, coach teachers, coach students, this will help you. If you want to be an evidence-based executive coach and only work with professionals, that's what this program is going to allow you to do. But it's also going to help you to add a 0 to the back of your number, because you will know what you're doing. This is not hype. This is not motivation. This is evidence-based. This is factual-based, data-based, driven by science, and exalted by performance.
Man, I got a question, Junior. I got a question. My question for you is, during your growth process, and as you've developed as a marketer and as a sales professional, you shared something with me that, and Travis yesterday, that I'd like you to share with the audience to the degree that you feel is appropriate. But you said you are competency stacking. You said that you are building a version of you that can do anything and everything that you need to do. So when it comes to growing, and when it comes to your perspective about growth, how do you look at this? Like, what do you think when you're like, you know what, I'm ready to grow? Do you even ask yourself that, or is it natural for you? Is it just like, you know, I'm gonna do sales, I'm gonna do all of this, I'm gonna do systems? Like, how do you think about growth?
I think this is a very important question, because most of us don't think about growth. I feel like we could be on either end of both of this spectrum. Sorry, so meaning that you might just be an action taker that just focuses on growing, and you just grow, and then you might be on the other end of the spectrum where you're a thinker and then you're thinking about growth. I do both. So I'm an action taker, but I'm also a strategist. Now, if you're a CEO, you have to be both of those things. Most of the people looking are the CEOs of their business. You cannot be all action and no thought, but at the same time, you cannot be all thought and no action. So the way that I think about growth is I make a conscious decision and then I act. So I say to myself, and by the way, what really influences my decision is the outcome of the person I become. So for example, I may pass up or I may delay a money-making opportunity in order to learn a skill. I may choose to do the hard work, okay, as opposed to doing the easy work. I may choose to take the stairs as opposed to the elevator. And I explained this to you and Travis yesterday. I say when most people get started in business, they take the elevator, meaning that they open an LLC, right? They get their EIN, they open their bank account, and all of a sudden I'm a CEO. So they go online, I'm a CEO. Okay, phenomenal. But what about the skills? Like to me, that's taking an elevator to success. What I did was I started from like the basic skill. I started learning how to write copy. I started as a copywriter. Then I became more of a marketer. I learned about advertising. Once I learned that, once I had those skills, then I started learning about sales. Then I started learning about coaching. Then I started learning about consulting. Then I started learning about, you know, all of these other things, leadership. Okay. And I've still never come out and say, I'm a CEO of this or I'm a CEO of that because I understand the the power and the necessity of skill stacking. Check this out. And I want you guys to put this in the chat. Which situation is better? You opening an LLC, okay, and you becoming the CEO in like a week, you're a CEO, or you taking these stairs, becoming a sales representative for a company. So you start in sales, sales representative. From sales representative, you move up, you become a sales associate. From sales associate, you become a sales manager. From a sales manager, you become a sales leader. And then from a sales leader, you then become a business owner or a CEO. I guarantee you, Bobby, if somebody started on that path, the path that I just described, at the moment when they did become a CEO, like their business would be dramatically different than what it is right now, because now people have become the CEO and now they're struggling to learn the skills. So what you have is you have CEOs that don't understand marketing, they don't understand sales, they don't understand coaching, they don't understand consulting, they don't understand advertising.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I say I'm skill stacking, it means that I'm stacking all of the skills that I need to be a successful CEO so that when I eventually do, I would have all the skills.
Yeah. You
I'm saying
know,
I would have skills. So, but here's the thing too. It's about a lot of it is ego. You know, a lot of it is ego. Now, fortunately for me, I don't have a like I don't care about like titles and stuff like that. That's not my thing. I want to know what I need to know to be successful. That's it. So I'm okay with sacrificing 5 years to learn skills first before putting on the big hat, right? Sitting
yeah.
in the big seat. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with taking the stairs and not taking the elevator because I understand that the truth is the truth. Like I always say, whether you choose to learn it now or whether you choose to learn it later, or like as Bradley just said, as you choose to learn as you grow, you're still gonna need to learn. Like you cannot get around it. You cannot be successful without sales. You cannot be successful without marketing in business. It's not possible. So
Right.
you have to do it, whether you choose to do it now, whether you choose to do it later. So my growth process has looked like a series of stacking and learning various different skills that I need to become successful as a business owner, CEO, and eventually investor, etc., etc. I'm stacking all of those skills. So when I eventually get there, there's nothing I don't know. When I have a sales team that's working for me and they say, "Hey, I can't do 100 calls," I say, "Give me the phone. Let me show you how to do 100 calls."
Right.
Like you can't tell me anything because I've been in the trenches. I've done it before. I've gone through the process. I've gone through the process you're going through right now. And also, Bobby, you know this as well as I do. If you're a leader that has been through the trenches, people respect you and they follow you a lot more because they know that you know what they're going through. So if
Right.
Bobby says to me, Junior, I'm going through X, Y, and Z, I'll say, okay, but no problem, man. Don't even worry about that. All you have to do is just do this, that, and that, and then your problem is solved. It's nothing. It's easy because I've been there before and I understand what they're going through.
Mhm.
And all of that is part of leadership. And all of that is part of having the authority to even speak and even say anything at all. If you've never done anything, in my opinion, you don't have the authority to tell me what to do because you've never done it. Like you don't read something on the internet and then tell me what you read. Tell me what you did. Like what are you doing right now? What did you actually do? What did you learn? Like there are certain, and we call it specialized knowledge. There's general knowledge, which is easily attainable by the general public, and then there's specialized knowledge, which is not easily attainable. And most of the times it is only attainable through experience. So what is your experience? You know, have you struggled to make a sale before? Have you struggled to market before? What have you done? And me, or my process of growth looks like skill stacking all of the skills I need to be successful. So eventually, when I do decide to, let's say, launch X, Y, and Z, or do this, that, and that, I already have all of the skills that I need.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know we're over time, so I don't have too much left to say for Junior. I had another thing that I had for him, but we're going to cue that one up for maybe sometime next week. But all I can say to that is don't let your talent take you where your skills cannot sustain you, because it's a
That's
long way down, depending on how high you go up.
And before we go, I want to tell people, like, decide to go on a run. So what I mean by a run, I believe in life we have different runs. So right now I'm on a 5-year run, meaning that I committed to something for 5 years, and I mean 5 years ago. So the process you're looking at right now, the person you're looking at right now, is somebody who started on a 5-year run about 4 years ago. Okay, about 4 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going on a 5-year run, and in the 5 years, I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z. So what is your run? Your run may be a 10-year run, maybe a 20-year run. What is your run right now? What are you going for? Like don't try to learn coaching for like 2 months. Go on a 1 year, 2 year, 3-year run, learning the skills. And what I mean by that is don't judge yourself. When we started working out, Bobby, you know, we've always been working out. But when we really started working out, I said to myself, I'm committing to this for 3 years, meaning that I'm not gonna look at myself in the mirror and judge myself and say, I'm not getting results, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that until after 3 years. After 3 years, if I still look the same, then I'll say it doesn't work. So I'm on a 3-year run. So what run are you on? Because that's the only way you're gonna have the consistency and the discipline to actually get the results that you're looking for. Thank you so much, guys. We're gonna close on that. This has been Breakfast with a Brand. By the way, on Monday, we will have a show on Monday. We might cut it, you know, early to make provision for the challenge. But if you haven't registered for the challenge as yet, go to www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com, www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. I'm going to keep this up for like 2 more minutes after we end. So if you haven't registered, you go ahead and do that. And also invite any friends, any family members that you know could benefit from the challenge as well. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Speak soon and let's grow.